Hi everybody, Bob DeBoo here. Very glad you're joining us today. Today we're going to talk about triads and expanding them into more sophisticated chords. We've practiced triads here on the Building Blocks of Bass sessions before, but we're going to revisit them. Remember, there's four main triads that we come across. We've got major, augmented, minor, and diminished. And we're going to talk about why I listed them in that order too. There's, of course, other ways to play triads. There's quartal triads, for instance, but we're not going to do that today. What we are going to do is work on our major, augmented, minor, and diminished triads and add one extra note just to each of those triads and see what chord results from doing that. So we're going to end up playing arpeggios because we're moving away from the triads. But the concept today, and this is a good exercise, it's going to be a real good workout, honestly, and we're doing everything in the key of F today. So today's episode is sponsored by the letter F. Everything that we're going to do is in the key of F, but it's going to change qualities. So if you'd like the PDF for what we're doing, click the link downstairs and you'll get a free PDF. There's also two separate sound slice links that you'll see in the video today that you can click the link downstairs and go practice this on your own, changing the speeds. Everything you're seeing where the audio is scrolling past the screen, that's what we call a sound slice, which you can speed up, slow down, you can change it in other ways too. So it's a great practice tool. Big shout out to Sound Slice. If you like what we do here today, please like the video and consider subscribing to Open Studio's channel. Let's check out first, just revisit our F major triad. I'm going to talk about the fingerings, and as we expand our triads and add in a major seventh and then a minor seventh and then a sixth, we'll see what chords happen. So let's begin. Here's our F major triad. We've got first finger on F, open A, pinky or the fourth finger on C. You remember all of this will work on electric bass too. And we're going from C, the fifth, to the root, so we're going to shift up on the A string because we want to go across. We want to go across the bass this way, we can build up speed that way too. So we've got F and now A with second finger, shift up to C with your pinky, and then across to F with your pinky, and the same back down. So that's the F major triad fingering that we're going to use today. But what we're going to do is to expand this particular triad is now we're going to use that same fingering, we're going to use the same triad, but now we're going to add in the note E, which is the major seventh in this key. So how would that sound? We'll do the same three notes for the triad, and just below the next root, we're going to add in an E natural. I'm using my second finger here because earlier I used my pinky on that triad note, right? So if you really practice those triads, you won't have to think much about expanding these. Same up here, I'm doing my second finger on E, and then back down. If you do the same thing now where we move that E natural down to an E flat, we end up with an F7 chord. So let's try that. So the same triad fingering. Now I'm going to go first finger on E flat on the A string, pinky on the F, and this is the same as what we were doing with the regular major triad. First finger on E flat now. Same way down. Now if we instead add in the sixth, take away that minor seventh, that E flat, and move it down another half step into the note D, we end up with an F6 chord, which is kind of like playing on a one chord, like this. So I'm using my same basic F triad fingering, but I'm adding in that D natural to get that particular sound. So if we put it all together, we have the F major triad, then the F major 7, F7, F6, which is also a D minor seventh chord inverted, first inversion, right? So these are the simplistic ones. We're in major, but we're also going to do the same idea to augmented, to minor, and then diminished. And I want to explain really quick why I'm going in that order. So if we take the F major triad, let's just deal with those first three notes. If we take that fifth and raise it by a half step, then we get what's called the augmented triad. So we have F, A, C C sharp, and so it's got a little bit more of attention to it, right, by having that C sharp. Otherwise, it's the same as the F major triad. We're just moving that fifth up a half step. So go up to this F now, right? So we still have the F and the A, but now I'm going to play my first finger for that C sharp right there, and then shift up to F here. Right? So then we'll add in our major seventh, minor seventh, and then sixth to that same shape and see what happens. We're going to do that a little bit later. Let's look at minor really quick and the relationship between minor and then diminished. First, the minor fingering. So this is F minor. We're doing everything in F today. So we have F with first finger, just like with everything else. A flat with your pinky on the E string. Second finger on C. And then we're going to shift up from C to F, and we're looking for F with our pinky or our fourth finger. That allows us to play first finger on A flat, and then we're going to shift up from A flat to C on the D string, and then across to F. Same way down. All you have to do to make this minor triad a diminished triad is, instead of like how we went from the major triad to augmented where we raise the fifth, we're going to lower the fifth. Meaning this is the root, the third, this was or is the fifth of F minor, and we're going to play it a half step lower. So F, A flat, B natural, with first finger now, F, A flat, B natural, and I like doing this with my second finger here. We're going to play a tritone to get up to that F. So that's how we're moving from the major triad into augmented, then minor into diminished. That's why we're doing that in that particular order. Let's get into the sound slice exercises. The first one up we have is an intonation exercise. So literally the notes are going to play the exact same register and pitches that we're looking for is going to play in this sound slice example, so it can help us with our intonation to play those individual notes. The next exercise that we have with that is only going to play the chords. It was generated by iReal Pro. It's nothing fancy, but it's going to help our ears to hear these chords and these triads in a more real situation, like we would be on a bandstand or in rehearsal. We're going to start with our intonation exercise, and we're going to go through all four of the triad types, but we're going to add in the sevenths, the major seventh first, and then the minor seventh, and then the sixth below it, and really try to work that out. Let's just start with the major group first. So we'll have a 4-click count in. Let's go. 2, 3, 4. And then repeat that. Now add the major seventh. Same fingering as the F major triad. We're just adding in that seventh. So repeat it again. Next up is F7. So we're going to move that E down to E flat right there. Same basic fingering though. So we don't have to think about changing that. F6, so we're going to add the D instead, right there. This is also a D minor 7 in first inversion, or the relative minor, right? Great, so that's the intonation play along for the major. Now let's look at making it into augmented. Remember our augmented triad fingering? Let's revisit real quick. It's first, open, fourth finger on C sharp, fourth finger on F, second finger on A on the D string, first finger on C sharp on the G string, and then finally F with your pinky. Now let's use the sound slice play along to try to keep our intonation in check as we practice this. Again, you can speed this up or slow this down as much as you like, and it'll help you. Here we go. We'll have a 4-click count in. Ready? 3, 4. add in the major seventh, add in E natural. So we just expanded this triad to something a little bit more exotic sounding, right? Next up is F7 augmented, so add in E flat. Again, all the fingerings for this are in the PDF, but it's the same basic fingering that we're doing. We're just adding in those notes, those extra notes. Next up, we're going to play D natural. Oh, I played it wrong. Here's D. There you go. So this is kind of like a D minor, major, seventh, and first inversion. So now we're going to take our minor triad with the sound slice, the intonation sound slice, to help us hear the pitches that we're shooting for and to help us just with the exercise. Again, you can speed this up, slow this down as much as you like. Let's just revisit the minor triad fingering real quick. First finger on F, pinky or fourth finger on A flat, second finger on C, up to F with your pinky. This is so that we can bridge across instead of doing big shifts up the D and the G string. You can totally do that. This is the way we're doing it today, and it's kind of all related to the different triads that we've been doing. So first finger, pinky, second finger, pinky, first finger, pinky, pinky. Back down, same way. Then we're going to add in the major seventh, then the minor seventh, then the sixth. Let's try it with the play along real quick. Here we go. We'll have 4 clicks in, and then we'll begin. 4. Repeat. Again. This time, add in the major seventh, or E natural, just like we did to the major and the augmented triads. Now we have an F minor major seventh arpeggio, just by adding that one note. So we've gone from a very simplistic triad to a little bit more of an exotic sound. Now F minor 7, you're likely familiar with this sound, but that's the same thing. We've just expanded that triad by adding a whole step below the root to get that minor 7th sound. It's very simplistic. Let's do F minor 6. This is D natural. So it's a different type of sound, right? This is more like if we were in the key of F minor, this would be a great option. Great. Now let's turn our minor triad into diminished. Let's revisit that really quick. So we have F, A flat, and instead of going to C, we're going to go F, A flat to B natural. So fingering wise, I'm going fourth finger to first finger to get that minor third shape while I cross strings. To B, then up to F again, just like all of our other triads. We're always shooting for this F right here on this A string so that we can bridge across. So F, A flat, second finger on B natural, and then up a tritone to get to that high F. And we'll do the same thing coming back down. What we're going to do is add in the major seventh, which is E, just like it was with the with the major triad, with the augmented triad, with the minor triad. We're doing the same thing to the diminished triad, and it gives a really hip sound. And this is often included into piano, guitar voicings, any type of shape. This is F diminished with a major seventh in it. Then we would add in the minor seventh or the E flat. That would give us half diminished. Then with D in it, it would give us this sound, the fully diminished seventh sound. Let's try it with the sound slice play along. Okay, we'll have 4 clicks in, and then we'll start our diminished expansion. Let's do it. 2, 3. just the triad. Back down. Repeat it. Good. Next up, we're adding in the E natural to get this F diminished with the major 7 shape. Repeat. Great. Next up, we're adding an E flat, so this is a F half diminished chord. D natural, and this is the straight up diminished arpeggio. F diminished 7th. Even though that's a D in there, which we were calling 6th earlier, it's just F diminished. Fully diminished. Now that we've looked at each individual triad quality, major, augmented, minor, and diminished, let's play the whole exercise down now. Again, with the sound slice play along, you can speed this up, slow this down, wherever you need to. But ideally, this is an exercise we'll do on a daily basis. It's a great warm-up to get started thinking about triads and thinking about expanding them into chords that we will use on a regular basis. Let's try the whole exercise now. 2, 3, go. F major triad, of course. The piano play along is just to help us make sure we're hitting pretty close to the right notes. We're using our ears for intonation instead of a tuner. This is the F major 7th. Now it's an arpeggio because we've added in that 7th. Repeat it. Down to F7, so it's an E flat. This is the same parameters we're going to use on all of our triad types. We're still using the same fingering, of course, for the major triad. Now we're going to move the E flat down to D, and that gives us F6 right here. Another way to think of this is a D minor 7th and 1st inversion. It's also just F6. Okay, as we're heading down, next up our triad is the augmented. Here it is. Just the augmented triad. And we'll repeat it again. Now add in the major 7th. F7 augmented, a very common chord that's going to come up. Still using the same fingering pattern from our F augmented triad. Back down again. Next up, we're going to add in D natural. Here we go. It's a pretty interesting result by just adding in that one note to this triad. I spoke and played the total wrong note. Should have been a D back there. Now we're going into minor triad. Down. So make sure you're staying consistent with your fingering as much as possible. That's really where this is at. So now add in the major 7th. Now we have F minor major 7th. Very common chord. Getting a little closer on the top note. minor 7, so an E flat is in the mix right there. It's just a whole step below the root. 7ths are never all that high. They're just a little bit lower than the root. Okay, next up is F minor 6. Here we go. So this is D natural, D natural. Diminished triad. We just change that one note from the F minor triad. Just change it one note from the F minor triad, and we end up with diminished. This is a half note there. Now we're going to add in the major 7th here. It's a really hip sound. Second finger on B natural up there really helps. Now F half diminished, so we're adding an E flat. Everything else is the same. Again, this is a great daily warm-up. You can really speed this up too to really have good facility. Now fully diminished. We're doing this too, you can think about the intervals that we're playing, right? Sure, we're thinking about what notes we're putting down, but listen to how it's built. That's all minor triads, for instance. Great, so that's the whole exercise, expanding triads on the bass. Next up, we're going to use another sound slice, which you can find the link downstairs, that's just going to play the chords for us. So we can hear how our arpeggios, our melodic arpeggios or expanded triads fit inside of harmonic chords that we might hear a Rhodes player play. We're also going to have a drum pattern playing along with us just to help with the vibe. So I've titled this sound slice ear training. It's at 100 BPM, but if you change the speed, the playback speed in sound slice, it'll correlate to the tempo because I put it in at 100 beats per minute. So if you say, for instance, change the sound slice down to 90, it would play at 90 beats per minute. The other way around, if you put it at 200, you're practicing it at 200. So we do gradually want to keep speeding this up to really get it under our fingers. But right now we're going to keep it at 100 beats per minute, and we're going to listen along with playing the exercise again. We're going to do it from top to bottom, major, augmented, minor, diminished. We're really getting good work in. As we're playing this on the bass, we're going to listen for the chord qualities and how they change. Very important, right? Because we're trying to figure out how to fit in with what we're playing on the bass to what we hear on the stage. But we have the luxury of practicing it here. So let's try it. This is expanding triads on the bass, the ear training sound slice, 100 beats per minute. Let's go. 2, 3, 4. So this is the F major triad, of course. There's nothing fancy happening in the accompaniment, right? This is just made on iReal Pro. But we still want to listen. How are we fitting inside of this? Now add in the major 7. You hear how that's added into the chord? Quality change in the chordal instrument. Now move that down to F6. You hear that in the chord. We still got that major triad shape. We've only added one note to it. Next up, we're going to move to augmented. So this is going to be the augmented triad here. Pretty drastic change in the chord type, right? But it's just changing one note. So we want to get used to this sound. E and E flat. Now we've got an F7 augmented, very common chord quality. Now put D in there. Here it is. This is a different chord entirely, right? It's D minor major 7, an F in the bass. It'll come up. Still just the same fingering pattern though, right? Here comes the minor triad. You hear that in the chord? If you have troubles hearing these chords and understanding what we're playing in relation to them, just repeat this every day. You'll start to hear it. Now F major, minor with a major 7. Hear that E natural in there? Still the minor triad. Now we'll move that E natural down to E flat. And we have F minor 7. Good old F minor 7. Still the same fingering pattern for the F minor triad. Here comes F minor 6. It's got D natural in it. And repeat. Next up is diminished, F diminished triad. So listen to that in the accompaniment. What that sounds like, just this particular voicing here. Now let's add E natural to that same triad. And this is really fairly common type of voicing that pianists and guitar players like to use. That E natural, that major 7th in there, it's really tense. Here's F half diminished, because we have diminished, but it's got that minor 7th at the top of it. Same fingering for the F diminished triad though. That's kind of the beauty of this exercise. We don't have to think about that. We're just changing that one note. So here's fully diminished. Good. One more time. So practice along with this. Again, with the sound slice, you can speed them up, you can slow them down. You can use the intonation one with the bow, would be great practice to do. You could do the ear training one on any instrument, obviously, but I took out the bass and the play along so it fits better with what we're doing in this exercise. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Was this a helpful exercise? Are you practicing this? Other ways to do it. So if you're playing with the ear training sound slice, you can change up the exercise as well. You could reverse it, like play everything descending and then back up. You could change around the direction. You could also just straight up improvise with these chords changing, but thinking about the triad and then expanding it just with that one note. So just a really brief example of what you can do with the sound slice, the ear training, after you've done the exercise and you really know it pretty well, is that you can go back and instead of playing the exercise itself, you can improvise inside of those sounds, because we really want to like bask in those sounds and understand what it is we're hearing and then speak appropriately on the bass. Getting that sound. Heading in this major 7. Making it F7, augmented. But we're really trying to understand what we're hearing. Just a fun thing that you can do on top using these exercises. So, happy practicing. Hope to see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe if you're into this. We do all these videos. These new videos are released every Monday. And thanks for joining me. Again, my name is Bob DeBoo for Open Studio. Peace.